Welcome, everybody, to another episode of AI in City. Um, as you know, after the episode and after the session, you will get an email, and I will remind you where to find all the other episodes and all the other resources we have on generative AI. Today, we have with us our own Devin Scott, Dr. Scott. It's going to be talking about AI for qualitative research. And because these sessions are fast, I'm going to give him all the time I can. You all enjoy the session and take it on, Devin.
Great. Thank you so much, Federico. Yeah, so like Federico mentioned, I'm Devin Scott. If I haven't met you before, I'm one of the instructional consultants in the Teaching and Learning Center. And one of the advantages of that is I can say, if you want to talk more about the tool that I'm going to talk about today or other tools and how you might use them for qualitative research or other research, I'm available to meet and consult with you later. Just send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat later, or you can find me on the TLC's website. So today is all about AI for qualitative research. And if you've done research before of any time, I'm sure that you've come across difficulties. And I'm going to focus on a couple of difficulties that you find in qualitative research, but you find in all sorts of research. So one of the difficulties I have whenever I'm doing a lot of the research I do these days is on the scholarship of teaching and learning. One of the difficulties I face is the sheer volume of literature. So it's expanding almost exponentially the amount of research being done overall. And in the field of scholarship of teaching and learning, it's really taking off with more and more journals, more publications every year. And so one of the big difficulties is handling that sheer volume. Another difficulty is identifying themes in individual works. And so the main difficulty there is not necessarily with searching these databases, like with the volume of literature, but with actually reading through the articles. Way back when I was getting my PhD, one of my earliest classes had a bit of research methods in it, and the faculty member asked us to do a literature review. I was writing my literature review, and I thought that I did a really a pretty good job based on like 10 or 15 sources. The feedback I got was, you're using too many quotes in here. I want you to summarize like 3 or 4 articles in one sentence. And I argue, I can't really do that. A lot of these are like qualitative articles or even more humanistic, like rhetorical criticism articles. I feel like I can't do that as much. And that's where I think one of the real strengths of AI is that it can look at these articles depending on the tool, and it can look at an article and it can pull out all these themes and richer data than you would get in an abstract, but short of reading the full article. And so you can review it to see if it's worth your time. So identifying themes and the volume of literature is a problem, and also synthesizing literature. So let's say you're able to narrow down thousands of papers into 100 that are relevant, and you can start identifying themes, but then you have to synthesize for all of that. And so the tool that I'm going to be talking about today is going to help with all three of those things, and it can help with other things too. But I only have 30 minutes, and so introducing SciSpace for qualitative research. So SciSpace is a tool based off of ChatGPT and a proprietary database search tool owned by SciSpace that really aims to help out with literature reviews and research. So it's very research focused, whereas ChatGPT, our own Copilot or UTverse are not as research focused. Some like sister tools of SciSpace would be Elicit, some version of Claude, Consensus. There's a few others that you might look at, but today we'll talk about SciSpace. SciSpace is really useful for early stage, any type of research, but especially I think qualitative inquiry because of some of those unique aspects I talked about, where you want more than just some fields from results and more than what you can find in the abstract, but you want to really pull out some of the themes that you see in the results section or play more out in the discussion section. What can SciSpace do? Well, it can scan the literature. Again, it can search all these databases like Google Scholar, like PubMed. It can search all these databases and pull out relevant literature for you. It can summarize articles. So it will write its own abstract. It'll give you more of a summary of an article. It's going to look for patterns and themes across works to share with you. And then finally, it can do literature synthesis. And so it can run a short literature review for you and give you some key points there and some things to look at. So I think all of that's going to be useful for tackling those problems we talked about with the sheer volume of work out there, identifying themes in individual work, and also synthesizing the data. So some key features of SciSpace are a literature review feature, extract data. And so this is really useful for if you already have articles, like let's say you do work on deprescribing and you've already built a folder full of PDFs on deprescribing or on a medical student use of practice questions. And you have all these articles collected, and maybe you have a junior researcher that's working with you or a student that's working with you. Well, you can extract the data from these individual PDFs and get summaries and reports out of them. You can also chat with a PDF and talk with a PDF. You can also have it write a report. That's part of the literature review, but it can do more than that. It can not only you can target it to write a report based off of literature that either you're having it gather or that you've already gathered yourself. And also, I think a neat feature is that it can generate diagrams and infographics for you to, especially if you're explaining research, or you've got a new member of the team on there. Now, I don't recommend using it to generate diagrams and infographics that you're going to publish. And I'm not going to get really into journals too much today, but you want to check with whatever journal you're going to publish with to see what their guidelines are, and their practices. So I've told you a bit about some of the difficulties that can be solved with SciSpace, like the volume of research, some of summarizing articles and finding out their themes, and then synthesizing that work. And so now I want to take you into a short demo. So I have created a brand new SciSpace account to use here, but if in case the live demo does not work, I also have a pre-run demo. But I'm going to show you, this is what SciSpace looks like. Anybody can get access to a free account. There are premium accounts for SciSpace as well, but they get a bit steep as you go on. But you can see that whereas you only have 100 credits a month for the free account, you get 12 times that. You can run multiple things at once. You can do unlimited chat. So there's a lot more availability. But I think the free version has enough features to make it worthwhile as long as you really think through how you want to use it. Because I created a brand new account because I burned out all of the credits on my other account in preparation for talking to you all today, running searches. So it'll refresh every month, but I'm not saying create two accounts, but that is what I have done. So for example, I mentioned review literature. So what SciSpace will do is if I click on this box, it'll pre-fill in do a scientific literature review on blank, include papers that are blank. And you can fill in the blank there. You can also select down here and say what you want to do. Do you want to do a deep review? Do you want to have it automatically decide, or do you want to do biomedical? So are you doing biomedical research? Those are the articles that you want to pull from. And so it gives you that option there. So I just default to the auto here, but you can see some of these other features. I'll get into at least extract data and generate diagram, but you can see that there are a lot of features here that are available through here. I mean, you can click the show more and find more there. I mean, I haven't played around with this find grants feature, but I think that would be interesting to a lot of people that are doing this type of research. And there's some that I wouldn't recommend doing, like analyze data. I wouldn't recommend doing with your like HIPAA protected or your IRB data or anything like that. And so I might focus on sort of early stage research. We're in the literature review, which I think is one of the real strengths of a tool like SciSpace. So I might type this in. So I said, and this is an area that I have some familiarity with, so that's why I chose this. So do a scientific literature review on health science student use of practice questions, include papers that are qualitative. So I wanted it to focus mostly on qualitative papers. It is good at quantitative and qualitative, but I'm gonna hit the search button here, and you can see it's going to start executing the plan, searching the literature. Let me see if I can. And it's telling me what it's doing here. And it's running, and you can see it ran all of these different searches here, and it's starting to, as it's going through, it's filtering articles. And it's giving me papers, a little snippet from the article it's using to categorize it, and an abstract. And so you can see it working. It ran through Google Scholar um, and SciSpace full text, and now it's running through PubMed. And it's going to give us reports on all of these. And so you can see the literature review it did for each of these as we get forward. So it's combining and ranking, re-ranking into a literature review. So you can see here, this is new. It has now it's got relevance scoring, and it's deciding it's choosing what it thinks is going to be the most relevant papers out of all these papers that's pulling. So like right now, it's looking at 225 papers and looking at. One of the limitations is with the free version, it's only going to pull out 10 papers to use for the literature review, but that's good for getting a start for us. You can see it live generating. I can't type that fast. But it's live generating here. And in a second, you'll see a full report. Okay, great. So that was pretty fast. Federico and I demoed Elicit, which is another tool that runs another AI tool that runs literature reviews. And I think it was taking about 20 minutes to do each review. And it was also limiting itself to 10 papers. But you can see that it has these information on how students perceive practice questions, so identifying knowledge gaps, improving exam techniques, increasing motivation and enjoyment, perceived equivalence to instructor materials. So it is it's telling us some insights from the research there. It's also going to talk about motivations for use among students, and then impact on learning, and it has some references here. And so each of these, if I'm early stage, if I'm interested in student use of practice questions, each of these can be something that I ask it further about. So I might be interested in, maybe I'm just interested in student motivations for using practice questions. I do that. Or I'm saying, okay, actually I'm interested in engagement, or I'm interested in how they're using practice questions. And so you can see that this has got me thinking in a lot of different ways to refine maybe my own research question, or to think about what I want to do. Do I want to do interviews where I have students work through practice questions so that I can get insights there? Or do I want to do focus groups? Do I want to focus on a particular student body? But interesting, and you can save this to a notebook. There's limitations on the free version for downloading. I've had luck just copy and pasting it into a Word document, right? But if I click all files here, I can see it's going to combine all of them. So I can see that it combined all of these 225, and it has all of these articles that I might look further into, or I might collect the PDFs for and have it analyze how relevant it thinks each of these articles are to what I'm doing, and where applicable, it has this abstract too here. Then I might be interested in Google Scholar alone. This paper here was published by Ryan Sheehy, and I was second author on this paper. So it pulled this paper up here from Google Scholar, medical student use of practice question in their studies, a qualitative study. It has a snippet here. It has an abstract that we can pull, but the really neat feature here is that when I'm looking at these tables of all the research, I can add my own column. And it's going to give me suggestions on columns. So I might be interested in what methods were used here. I might be interested in the population, or I can create my own column. And I'm going to say that I am interested in themes. And I'm going to say, list the themes identified in the results of the article. And let's see what it does. So it's creating an entirely new column just based off of that. So I chose a paper I'm familiar with. We gave a talk for one of the TLC's podcasts actually a few months back. If you're interested in this article, not to shamelessly self-promote, but here it's saying, okay, the major themes were medical student use of practice questions for primary learning, medical students place more importance on the rationale of a practice question versus selecting the right answer, and medical students are using practice questions as single use. Those are the themes that we identified. Those are the themes that we wrote out in the paper. So it's pulling from there. You can see like sometimes it's not available in the metadata, but you can see that it is pulling all of these different themes from this qualitative research here, which is a big time saver. And I can say, okay, this is something that I'm interested in. What's going on here with the results section? So I'm not downloading all of these PDFs right off the bat. I'm looking at my own column that I've generated, whatever I'm interested in.
Dr.
Yeah, go
Scott,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but could you just walk back? How did you get on that page
Yeah,
when, sorry.
no, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to stop. So, all right. So we were running and we were watching all this live activity here. And then it started generating outputs. And my final output was this um, literature review, basically, right? But then what I did was I clicked on all files. And that's where I think one of the most useful pieces of the SciSpace is I can click on this, and this combined all of the search results together. And it showed me all these papers and relevance, and then abstracts. And what I did was I had a suspicion that when I ran this, it would pull up this article on here because of the way I wrote that, just because I'm familiar with it. And then so what I did was I clicked on, and you can, this is Google Scholar, this is from SciSpace, this is from PubMed, that it pulled here. Oh, it pulled it from PubMed this time. So last time it did not pull it from PubMed when it did this. But and then what I clicked on was said add column, and I created my own column here of what I was interested in. But I could have created any of these columns that I wanted to here. So maybe let's see what it does with results. And I did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And this was when you were on, because I'm trying to walk with you through the same steps. So this was under literature review on the
Yeah.
left
So
column, and then moving forward, you know.
yeah, so the outputs. Once it generated these outputs here, then I went to all files and I found I found one of these. And I could have run it on this combined health, but the problem with running it on that was it would have taken a little longer for the live demo, and so it didn't do that. So here it gave a summary of the results section here, and so I can see that and I can view it and I can look at these tables. And if I was using a wider monitor, it would be even better for me right now. So then what I can do is I can say you know develop an infographic that summarizes the research. And so I can chat with it right in there. I didn't need to go back to the beginning, but I can chat right in here, and it's going to start generating an infographic. I can check my credits. So I burned 14 out of 100 credits so far. I'm not entirely sure how it calculates what the credits are, because some searches burn 10 credits, some have burned like 30 credits. But I just sort of check on that every once in a while, and it's going to start generating an image. Another thing that you can do is you can upload a PDF. So while it's working on that, I'm going to show you that paper. This is that medical student use of practice questions in their studies, a qualitative study. I am going to take a PDF of this paper. You know what? While this is running live over here, I'll show you what I did on the other one. So sorry if I'm screen switching on you, but this is my other account, and you can see it ran this executive summary, and what I asked it to do is I might scroll here. Apologies. I upload the paper. And I said, give me key insights from this article. How does this fit within the literature review? What are the major takeaways and themes of this article? And it generated that up in this final output here too. And you can see that it's summarized the article. It's given me a deeper understanding of it, and it's put it into some conversation with the literature review here. And it generated this infographic. And so not based off of that article, sorry, based off the general literature review. And so maybe I'm actually interested in learning more about the high time commitment that students feel with practice questions. Okay, here's one. It generated this about the perceived utility of practice questions, the academic impact, and collaborative learning. This is telling me that I might be interested in looking at the quantitative studies as well, because a lot of researchers are looking at the impact of practice questions. The interesting thing about this literature review is that I ran basically the same exact literature review search on my other account, and I got different literature. And so if I go over to, and so like that's something, if you've worked with ChatGPT or Copilot or any of them, you sometimes get different results when you run a query a second time. But an interesting thing that I got from this query is in the research gaps and future direction. So longitudinal retention, most studies focus on short-term exam scores. More research is needed to determine the impact of practice questions on long-term retention and clinical reasoning skills over several years. And so this is giving me some research gaps. So if I'm interested in practice questions, maybe this is something that I want to do. It's saying there is a scarcity of qualitative data. So maybe that's something that I'm interested in doing. So it can help you identify these gaps in the literature that you might focus on. So I'm going to now stop the live demo, and I'm going to go to my concluding slides. But if we should have time for some questions and some tips for you if anyone else has those. So what are my tips? My top tip is something I've hinted at throughout this talk, is that you should be triangulating. So you know, run the SciSpace multiple times, change it around, ask slightly different questions, run elicit. When you're doing a literature review, use multiple AI tools. Use SciSpace, use elicit, use Claude, use Consensus. You can even use for like a more limited overview, UTverse or Copilot. So triangulate, just like a good qualitative research triangulates, you should be triangulating your work on this literature review with different AI tools and different searches. Iterate. I like to say that a lot of things are iterative, but I think especially using these AI tools for a literature review, you want to take an iterative approach. So have it run the literature review, then read the output, read some of the articles, and refine it. Get more targeted, focus on a different area, and then research it. Search again. Do another literature search. Mind your credits. You can see that you have limited credits on the free version, and so just be strategic. That's where I was looking for earlier. Be strategic with the way that you're doing your search. If you're about to run, you know, if you're working on something else and you're about to run out of credits, go ahead and wait a couple days. What are some best practices for AI use and qualitative research? My main practice is check the journal for whatever their policies are on AI use. You probably noticed that I shied away from using the tool for qualitative data analysis, for looking through transcripts, anything like that, and that's because the vast majority of the journals that I publish in don't allow that. So this is Teaching and Learning Inquiry. It's put on it's the Journal of the International Society for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. They have a generative AI guidance for authors and reviewers. Most journals have these. Federico and I have been tracking them over the last couple of years, and they're becoming more and more robust. This one I think is a good one. It's telling you when it's okay to use AI, when it's not okay, and so my main point there is check your journal first whenever you're going to integrate AI use, and see if it's worth doing. Second, be transparent. So if you use AI, be transparent about it. AI is not a researcher, but tell us about the search you did, how you used it. Be open with your team members about if you're using AI and what tools, because one, they'll be interested in learning about the tools, but two, you know, you don't want to spring down someone last minute. You want to have that conversation just like the you know, author or order conversation early on. I think of it as a junior thought partner. A lot of the folks that talk about using AI for research or anything, talk about using it as a thought partner. For research, I think of it as sort of like a more of a junior thought partner, somebody that I can ask questions of and do all of that and then verify everything that it's outputting. And so I'm using it to rapidly speed up. Some colleagues and I did a systematic literature review last year, and it took a very long time. And a tool like this can do a version of that in a much shorter period of time, especially if you're triangulating it with other tools. Then finally with AI, like, have the humans make the decisions. You'll see that in the journal policies and guidelines. But, whenever there's interpretive judgment, which articles to include and not to include, you're doing that. You're maintaining methodological rigor as well. And then with compliance, if you're using AI, you're making sure you're compliant with the IRB and HIPAA. And then when you're reporting, continue reporting with like COREC or whatever standards you use for your reporting there. I wanted to make a plug for an earlier webinar that Federico and I did, and we did a brief overview of a few tools for this, using AI for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, Emerging Opportunities, Responsible Use, and Evolving Guidelines. You can check that out from our webinar archives. But does anyone else have any questions or thoughts on SciSpace or experiences or other best practices you have? Yeah, Alina?
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation, Devin. Quick question regarding these tools. How accurate are they? Or do I have, for example, I do another systematic literature review,
Yeah.
and I have to create a table, to look into different aspects of the results.
Yeah.
Can I use some parts of this SciSpace or no?
I am more on the camp of don't use it when with the writing because of the journals and because I think you're going to read the article anyway, Alina. So just do it yourself and don't even worry about the AI. I would use this more earlier on, or pulling more data, or saying, did we miss something with the systematic literature review? Is there other things going on here? I wouldn't use it for the written part there. Now, I demoed that article I wrote with Ryan Sheehy, and everything it said was accurate. I haven't found a problem with what SciSpace's output yet, but with AI, it's not like thinking. So it's not, I can't trust it like I could trust a co-researcher.
Okay, and this one, it's similar to Covidence.
Yeah, well, yeah. In some way, it's like doing the whole thing that you would do with Covidence, but Covidence is all human powered interpretation along the way. This is the AI's doing all the things along the way here and then outputting all of it. But yeah, it sort of looks similar to the tables you get in Covidence and like the table you could get out of Elicit too, and all of that. Yeah.
And then, for example, for the points or the tokens we are getting, how much free? Is it per day or per month, or how?
Per month. Per month. So for example, I didn't fully run out, but I did on that other account I ran 5 or 6 large searches and then asked some questions and modified things, and I've got about 1 or 2 left for the month. If you just build it in, are strategic with it in your practice, I think you'll be all right with it. And then you can use it with, I mentioned Claude and Consensus and Elicit.
For Elicit and Notebook LM. Should I?
Yeah, I triangulate. Like I said, I'd use them through. They all have a little bit different strengths. SciSpace is one of my favorites for like this literature review right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. So if you could give us some feedback or give me feedback with this QR code, I would really appreciate it. I'm going to leave that for another second, and then I'm going to go over. I know we're at time, so thank you so much. If you join me again, you can find more AI in 30 on our website. I've got somebody in the chat. Can SciSpace review or revise your own article for publication? I would not use it for reviewing or revising your own article because journals say that you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. It has the capability, but if the question is should I? No, I don't think so. But can it do it? Yeah, it can. Let's have a wonderful rest of your week.